Hello, class. This semester, I would like you guys to title your work. The reason is because I think it's useful because it adds a layer of narrative and oftentimes makes your work more interesting and engaging. The first rule, or the first thing I talk about, is the Hemingway rule, and that is to use ordinary language to describe extraordinary things. And that brings up the first point of this, and that is to use your voice. You don't want to try to use someone else's voice or try to make your art title sound artsy or fancy. Just be yourself. That's what people are looking for when they look at your title. There's a few things on what not to do, and that is the first thing is to avoid cliches. Cliches are words that are in terms and phrases that are used over and over again that aren't really interesting, and some people might think that you just didn't put effort into adding the title. So avoid cliches. Another thing you can avoid is overly academic titles. So, for example, when I was in graduate school, we were learning new words and we couldn't wait to place them on our artwork. And what happens is it comes off a bit kind of poserish or a little bit pretentious. So, those things you kind of want to avoid, even if you are very smart and use that kind of language. You have to be careful on what it looks like on the written page. One thing that I can recommend is if you start with a title. In other words, if there's a song in your head or a phrase that you overheard eavesdropping that just sticks in your head, a lot of times those are great titles and they inspire the work themselves. So instead of like making a work of art and then adding the title as an afterthought, maybe the title is the whole thought. Um, there's a couple little tricks that you can do when you're coming up with a title and you're stuck. One thing is if you go to the paint store and you look at the paint swatches, all those have titles for the different color paints, and some of them are amazing. And if you stand there and look long enough, you'll probably find one that's appropriate to your work. And then the other trick that I really like is if you open up a newspaper and you go to the racing page and you look at the horse racing, the horses very often have fantastic titles for whatever reason. I don't know why, but it works. And there's some terrible titles, but if you look through long enough, I'm sure that you'll find one. So I love to talk about titles as they relate to artwork. And if you have a title you want to try out, or if you're stuck trying to think of a title, let me know. It's my thing.